The galaxy was on the edge of chaos. Across many star systems, different alien species had been fighting for years. It was a war that had no end in sight. The peaceful planets were destroyed, and the once thriving civilizations now lay in ruins. Every species was tired of the fighting, but no one knew how to stop it. The galaxy's leaders, from planets far and wide, had tried everything. They made agreements, signed treaties, and called for peace talks. But every time, something would go wrong. A new battle would begin, and the peace they had hoped for would slip away. Each side believed they were right, and no one was willing to give up their claim to power. In the midst of all this, strange rumors began to spread. Whispers started among the alien species, talk of a new weapon being built by humans. No one had seen humans in years. The last time they had been heard from, they were still building their forces, but their role in the galaxy had been unclear. Yet now, there were stories of a massive warship that had been secretly constructed on Earth, a ship unlike anything anyone had ever seen. At first, these rumors were laughed off. "It's just another story," they said. "Humans are nothing special. They're still too weak to challenge us." But as time went on, the rumors grew. More and more species reported strange signals coming from human space, signals that seemed to be coming from a ship. But no one could confirm what it was. No one could track it down. It was as if the humans had suddenly disappeared from the galaxy's radar. The alien leaders grew nervous. Was it possible that humans had built something so powerful it could turn the tide of the war? Or was it just a trap, a distraction meant to keep them off balance? No one knew, but everyone was scared. One thing was clear. The balance of power in the galaxy was about to shift, and no one knew what to expect. On the far side of the galaxy, far beyond the reach of most space explorers, a human warship was indeed being built. It was enormous, much larger than any ship the galaxy had ever seen. The humans had used their advanced technology to build something new, something powerful. The ship's design was sleek, but its purpose was clear. This was a warship, not just a transport or exploration vessel. And it wasn't just for show. The humans were preparing for something big. The ship was unlike any other. Its hull was made of a special material, nearly indestructible, and its engines were capable of faster-than-light travel, far beyond what the galaxy had ever seen. Its weapons were powerful enough to destroy entire fleets with a single shot. But the most shocking thing about the ship wasn't its size or power. It was the humans' message. They weren't building this warship to conquer. They weren't building it to destroy. They were building it for something entirely different, a message to the rest of the galaxy. The humans were coming, and they were ready to fight. But they didn't want to fight for power. They wanted to fight for something more important: peace. This warship, it seemed, was more than just a tool of destruction. It was a symbol of hope. The humans had been watching the galaxy tear itself apart, and they had had enough. They were ready to step in, to stop the fighting, and to show the galaxy a new way. But the rest of the galaxy didn't know this yet. They only knew that the humans had a massive warship, and that terrified them. The leaders of the alien factions held secret meetings. What should they do? Should they wait and see if the rumors were true? Or should they act now before the humans had a chance to strike? Some leaders argued that they should destroy the ship before it could leave human space. Others believed it was too risky. No one wanted to be the first to start a fight with the humans. But deep down, they all knew one thing. The galaxy was in danger. They had been fighting for so long, and they were tired. The war had taken its toll. There were no winners, only survivors. And now, this new threat, the human warship, had appeared on the horizon. No one knew what would happen next, but everyone could feel that something big was coming. The galaxy was about to change. Whether it would change for better or worse, no one could say. But one thing was certain: the humans were coming, and they were ready to fight. Whether it was for peace or for something else, only time would tell. The day the human warship appeared, the galaxy fell silent. For weeks, rumors had circulated, but now the truth was undeniable. A massive ship, shining like a star, emerged from deep space. It was so large that when it entered the galaxy's view, it blocked out the light of nearby suns. No one had ever seen anything like it. It wasn't just the size that caught everyone's attention. The ship was sleek, designed with strange, glowing lines that seemed to pulse with energy. The ship's surface was smooth and metallic, but the way it moved was unlike anything anyone had ever witnessed. It didn't seem to struggle against gravity or the pull of the planets. It simply glided forward, as if it had a purpose that no one else could understand. Alien ships that were much older, much smaller, and more familiar to the galaxy's inhabitants were now facing something entirely new. The arrival of this warship struck fear into every species. The different factions that had been at war with each other suddenly paused their battles, watching the strange ship closely. They didn't know if this was the beginning of their doom, or if it was something entirely different. For many of the galaxy's leaders, this was the moment they had been dreading. They had heard the rumors, but seeing the human warship for themselves made everything real. Some leaders immediately called for a meeting, unsure of what to do. The first question on everyone's mind was simple: why had the humans come? The warship's arrival didn't just cause panic, it sparked curiosity as well. While some feared the humans were here to conquer the galaxy, others wondered if there was a different reason. Could this warship be a sign of something else? Was this the start of a new era for the galaxy? The warship didn't immediately fire any weapons, nor did it show any signs of aggression. Instead, it simply hovered in space, sending out a signal. The signal was clear: we are here. The moment that message reached the galaxy, a wave of tension rippled through every faction. Some alien races started preparing for a possible attack, but they couldn't shake the strange feeling that something was different this time. The humans were not like the others. They didn't just arrive with their weapons aimed at the galaxy. They arrived with a presence that demanded attention. As the ship slowly drifted toward the center of the galaxy, the leaders of the alien factions began to debate their next move. Some suggested they send a fleet to confront the humans before they could cause trouble. Others disagreed, suggesting they wait and try to communicate. But no one knew how to contact the humans, and their technology seemed too advanced to be understood by the galaxy's current communication systems. On one hand, the humans had arrived at the perfect time. The galaxy was tired of the endless fighting. The wars had drained everyone, and the peaceful planets had suffered the most. Many saw the arrival of the human warship as a possible end to the endless cycle of violence. Perhaps the humans could bring peace, or at the very least, stop the fighting and force the factions to negotiate. On the other hand, the unknown surrounding the human warship made many leaders nervous. Could the humans be trusted? Their warship was a clear sign of strength, but the galaxy had seen enough deception over the years to be cautious. What if this was a trap? What if the humans had come to destroy everything in their path? The human warship continued to drift through space, heading toward a neutral zone where many important decisions about the future of the galaxy were made. The sight of the ship, slowly growing larger as it approached, filled the hearts of those watching with dread and hope at the same time. There was no denying its power, and no one could ignore the fear that came with it. But there was also the possibility of peace, something the galaxy had not felt in years. Days passed, and still, the warship did not make a move. It simply waited, as though the humans knew they were in no hurry. They were in control, and they didn't need to prove anything to anyone. The galaxy's factions had no choice but to react, but no one was sure how. They were being forced to make decisions that would impact the future of everything they knew. Then, without warning, the human warship sent a message across the galaxy. This time, the message was clear and unmistakable. We are not your enemies. We come in peace, but we are ready to fight if we must. The galaxy listened closely. The words were strange, even hard to believe. Peace, was that possible? Could the humans, with their enormous warship, really want peace? For a moment, The galaxy's leaders were speechless. No one knew what to think. No one knew whether this was the beginning of a new era or the start of a war that would change the galaxy forever. The human warship had appeared, and now the galaxy had to decide what to do about it. As the human warship drifted through space, the galaxy was filled with a mixture of fear and confusion. News of its arrival spread quickly, reaching every corner of the galaxy. The different alien species, all caught in the web of endless wars, now faced a new question. What do the humans want? The answers weren't clear, and every faction reacted differently. Some species saw the human warship as a powerful weapon, a weapon they feared might be used to destroy them all. These were the most war-hardened factions, the ones who had fought for decades or even centuries without rest. They saw the ship's arrival as a sign of invasion. The humans were not known for their strength in the galaxy, but this ship, this enormous, shining warship, was proof that humans had changed. Some leaders argued that the humans had been secretly building an army, waiting for the right moment to strike. In the war rooms of these factions, commanders gathered, their faces filled with worry. "We must prepare for the worst," one leader said, his voice grave. "This is no ordinary ship. It could be the beginning of the end for us all." The generals called for fleets to be assembled, ready to defend their planets. They made plans to send their ships to the human warship's location, hoping to intimidate the newcomers and show them the power of the galaxy's established forces. These leaders believed that if they didn't act now, the humans might sweep through the galaxy, destroying everything in their path. But not everyone saw the humans as a threat. For some, the human warship was a sign of something different, a glimmer of hope in the middle of the galaxy's endless chaos. These were the more peaceful species, those who had suffered from the constant fighting and destruction. They saw in the human ship a chance for change. What if the humans are here to help? One leader asked during a council meeting, "What if they're tired of the war too? Maybe they can show us a new way to stop the fighting." This was a bold idea. Many of the peaceful factions had spent years trying to negotiate peace among the various species, but every effort had failed. The wars continued to rage, and the innocent suffered. Now, for the first time in a long while, there was a possibility that someone powerful, might be able to help end the violence. Some of the leaders who had long wanted peace with the humans decided to send a message. They reached out to the human warship, hoping to establish communication. The message was simple. "We wish to talk. We want to understand what you want from us." But not everyone in these peaceful factions agreed with this approach. Some were still afraid. What if the humans were just pretending to want peace, only to strike when the galaxy's defenses were lowered? The fear of being betrayed lingered in the hearts of many. Meanwhile, there were other factions who didn't know what to believe. They didn't want to take sides too quickly. They wanted to see what would happen next. They knew the human warship had shown no signs of aggression, but there was still too much uncertainty. The galaxy had seen too many tricks before. The question that haunted them all was, could the humans be trusted? Across the galaxy, the arrival of the human warship had sparked countless debates. In some corners of the galaxy, there was growing fear and distrust. In others, there was cautious hope. Leaders from all sides understood that they had to make a decision soon. They couldn't wait forever. As days passed, the human warship remained silent, floating peacefully in the neutral zone. Its message, "We come in peace, but we are ready to fight if we must," was still fresh in everyone's mind. The more the galaxy's leaders thought about it, the more uncertain they became. The humans had made it clear that they were not here to fight unless necessary, but how could they be sure? Was this just another warship looking for a reason to attack? Some factions began to move toward a path of diplomacy. They sent ships to the human warship, hoping to communicate, to learn what the humans wanted, and to negotiate a future that didn't involve more bloodshed. They sent their best ambassadors, skilled in the art of negotiation. But even as they made their way to the human ship, they couldn't shake the feeling of uncertainty. Would the humans welcome them, or would they be met with an explosion of power? Others, still unsure, kept their fleets close, unwilling to let their guard down. The possibility of peace was appealing, but the threat of destruction was too great to ignore. And then, there were those who, out of fear or pride, would never trust the humans. They had seen too many enemies come and go, each one promising peace, only to bring destruction in the end. And so, the galaxy stood at a crossroads. Some saw the human warship as a beacon of hope, a chance to end the endless wars. Others saw it as a sign of impending doom, a new force that would bring the galaxy to its knees. The question was not only what the humans wanted, but whether the galaxy could find a way to trust them, or if the fear of the unknown would destroy any chance for peace. One thing was certain: the arrival of the human warship had changed everything. The galaxy's fate was no longer in the hands of the old leaders. The humans had arrived, and now it was up to the galaxy to decide what would happen next. The galaxy was in a state of restless anticipation. Leaders from every corner of the universe watched the human warship closely, waiting for the next move. The warship remained silent, hovering in the neutral zone, and with each passing day, tension grew. Some had sent messages to the humans, but there had been no response. The silence was deafening. Was this a trick? Were the humans waiting for the perfect moment to strike? Or were they truly as peaceful as their words suggested? Finally, after days of uncertainty, the human warship sent out a signal. The message, when it arrived, was simple, clear, and unlike anything the galaxy had heard before. It came through all communications channels at once, reaching every planet, every ship, every station. The message echoed through the galaxy like a thunderclap, shaking the very foundation of the war-torn universe. We are not your enemies. We have come not to conquer, but to show you a new way. The words were short, but their meaning was powerful. The human warship had not come to fight. It had not come to destroy. It had come to bring something different, something unknown. For many in the galaxy, it was the first time they had heard such a message from anyone. Everyone paused. Everyone listened. Some species were skeptical. Could it be true? They wondered. Why would humans send such a message? They've built a warship larger than anything we've seen before. What do they really want? For these factions, the message was too good to believe. They saw only one truth: the humans were dangerous, and their words were just a way to lower their guard before making their move. But for other species, the message sparked something else: hope. The galaxy had been trapped in endless fighting for so long that many had forgotten what peace could look like. Now, a powerful new force had come forward, offering something they had only dreamed of: an end to the war. This is what we've been waiting for, one leader said quietly as the message played across their screen. Maybe the humans can show us a way to stop this madness. Maybe they can teach us how to live in peace. The peaceful factions, who had longed for a solution to the galaxy's endless wars, began to take the message seriously. They couldn't ignore the possibility that the humans had something new to offer. They had watched the humans for years, seeing their strength and their ability to survive. If these humans, with all their power, were offering peace, perhaps it was worth trusting them. The message continued. We know the galaxy is torn apart. We know you have fought each other for far too long. But we are here to show you something different. We are here to teach you how to fight for what truly matters: peace, justice, and freedom for all. The message sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Could peace really be possible? Could a warship, built for destruction, be used to protect? Could the humans, who had lived through their own struggles, really offer the galaxy a way out of this endless conflict? The more the leaders listened to the message, the more questions they had. Some wondered if the humans had experienced something that made them change. Perhaps their own wars had taught them the true cost of conflict. Others believed the humans were still too new to the galaxy, too inexperienced to understand the complexity of the wars they were about to face. The galaxy is not so simple, one leader argued. You cannot just stop a war with words. It has taken us years to build our power, and you think you can simply undo all that with a speech. But there were other leaders who heard the message differently. "Maybe they are right," said another leader, softer this time. "Maybe it's time we stop fighting. We have fought for so long that we've forgotten why we started. If the humans truly have a way to stop the fighting, we should listen." The human warship's message ended with a final statement that left everyone in deep thought. "We will not force you to join us. We will not demand your allegiance. But we are here. We are ready to help. You are free to choose whether to continue fighting or to build a new future together. The choice is yours." The silence after the message was almost louder than the words themselves. The galaxy stood still, as if it were holding its breath. Some factions had already started planning how to counter the humans, worried that their message was a trick. But for the first time in years, there was also hope. Hope that the humans might actually have a way to bring an end to the endless wars. Hope that something new could happen. The question now was, what would the galaxy do with this offer? As the warship continued to float in the neutral zone, still showing no signs of aggression, leaders gathered to make a decision. Some would choose to trust the humans and try to make peace. Others would reject their message, determined to fight until the end. But no matter what, the galaxy had changed. The arrival of the human warship had shifted the balance, and the future was now uncertain. Would the message of peace be accepted, or would fear and mistrust push everyone back into war? The human warship had spoken. The galaxy would never be the same. The galaxy was at a crossroads. The human warship, still silent in the neutral zone, had given the galaxy a choice: peace or war. The message was clear, but the path ahead was anything but simple. Leaders from every faction, from the strongest warlords to the most peaceful diplomats, had gathered to decide the future. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. In the grand halls of the Galactic Council, a meeting was called to discuss the human warship's message. Tensions ran high as representatives from various species took their seats. Some were hopeful, while others were filled with distrust and fear. The room buzzed with heated debates, each leader arguing passionately for their position. "We cannot trust them," one leader, a grizzled veteran of countless battles, declared. "The humans have power, and they have shown us a warship like no other. Their words mean nothing. They could be waiting for us to lower our guard and then strike. We must prepare for war." This leader's words were met with murmurs of agreement from some of the more war-driven factions. They had fought long and hard to gain their power, and they saw the arrival of the humans as a threat. Their instincts told them to fight, not to talk. They believed that peace was a lie, a trap, and the galaxy would only be safe if they stood ready to defend it at all costs. But not everyone agreed. A leader from a peaceful species stood up, her voice calm but firm. "We have fought for too long. The message from the humans is a chance to end this endless cycle of war. We cannot let fear dictate our actions. What if they truly mean what they say? What if they can help us?" She paused, looking around the room, her eyes filled with both hope and determination. "If we reject peace now, we may never get another chance." Her words struck a chord with several other leaders who had longed for peace, but felt helpless in the face of endless fighting. They had seen the destruction caused by war, the lives lost, and the suffering that followed. What if the humans could truly help? What if they could offer a way to heal the galaxy? But still, the doubts remained. "Peace sounds good, but it's too dangerous," a third leader said, shaking their head. "We've seen too many enemies pretend to want peace only to betray us later. How do we know the humans are different? How can we be sure?" The council chamber grew quieter as the leaders reflected on the difficult choice before them. The humans had sent their message. Now it was up to the galaxy to decide whether to embrace their offer or reject it and continue fighting. The debate raged on for hours, with no clear answer. Some leaders argued that the galaxy had been at war for so long that they had forgotten what peace even looked like. Others believed that trust had to be earned, not given so easily. And some, still skeptical, feared that any attempt at peace would only lead to their downfall. Outside the council chamber, in the vast reaches of space, the human warship waited. Its lights flickered softly, almost as if it, too, was waiting for the decision. It had made its offer and now it would not interfere. It was up to the galaxy to choose its path. As the meeting wore on, a sense of urgency began to build. The galaxy couldn't afford to stay in this state of uncertainty forever. Leaders knew that if they didn't make a decision soon, their inability to act could lead to even greater destruction. Finally, the council agreed to a vote. The fate of the galaxy would be decided, and each leader would cast their vote on whether to trust the humans and pursue peace, or whether to prepare for war. One by one, the leaders stood and made their choice. Some voted for peace, hoping that the humans truly meant what they said. Others voted to prepare for war, convinced that they couldn't take the risk of trusting the humans. The room was tense as the votes were counted, and the final decision was announced. It was a split decision. The galaxy was divided. Half the factions would send ambassadors to the human warship to negotiate peace, hoping that this was the beginning of a new era. The other half would prepare their fleets for battle, unwilling to trust the humans and ready to fight if necessary. As the meeting concluded, leaders exchanged glances, unsure of what would happen next. The decision had been made, but the future was still uncertain. Would the peace talks succeed, or would war break out once again? The galaxy's fate was no longer in the hands of one leader or one faction. It was in the hands of the humans, and the galaxy's decision to trust them. And so, the human warship remained in the neutral zone, waiting. It had made its offer. Now, it was up to the galaxy to decide what to do with it. Would this be the moment when the galaxy finally found peace, or would it be the spark that ignited the galaxy's most devastating war? Only time would tell. The galaxy had made its choice. Half the factions had chosen to try for peace, sending ambassadors to meet with the human warship. The other half, still filled with distrust, began to gather their fleets, preparing for what they feared would be a deadly confrontation. The decision had been made, but no one could know for sure what would happen next. The human warship, still hovering in the neutral zone, had remained silent since its last message. But now, as tensions rose and fleets assembled, the ship began to move. Slowly at first, then faster, it advanced toward the center of the galaxy, heading directly for the heart of the conflict. The warship's engines hummed with power, and its massive silhouette loomed larger and larger in the sky. For those who had chosen war, the sight of the ship moving toward them was terrifying. They had heard stories of the ship's power, and now they would see it for themselves. The fleets they had gathered were formidable, but they were not prepared for the true strength of the human warship. As the human ship advanced, the first ships in the opposing fleets moved to intercept. Their weapons were ready, and their commanders gave the order to fire. The battle began with a sudden, deafening explosion. Energy blasts shot from the human warship, hitting the enemy ships with incredible force. In the blink of an eye, entire fleets were torn apart. It was clear now. The human warship was no ordinary vessel. It was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. "Open fire," one of the enemy commanders yelled, but their weapons barely scratched the surface of the human warship. The ship's shields, powered by technology no one understood, absorbed the attacks with ease. As the enemy ships fired again, the warship retaliated, sending out a wave of destructive energy that ripped through their defenses. One by one, the ships crumbled into pieces, their crews lost in the chaos. On the bridges of the alien ships, panic spread. The warship's power was overwhelming. Some commanders tried to retreat, but it was too late. The human warship was relentless. With each shot, it destroyed enemy fleets, leaving nothing but wreckage behind. It was a demonstration of pure power, and it was impossible for any of the galaxy's forces to ignore. Even the fleets that had chosen peace could not look away. Some of their ships were still in range, and they watched in horror as the human warship displayed its might. No one had expected this. The humans had sent a message of peace, But now they were showing their strength in the most terrifying way possible. "We should have listened," one of the peaceful leaders muttered as they watched the destruction unfold on their screens. "We didn't know how strong they were." The human warship didn't stop. Its weapons continued to fire, tearing through fleet after fleet, leaving only devastation in its wake. Yet, strangely, there was no sign of joy in the attack. No victory parade. It was as if the humans were simply showing their power, making sure the galaxy understood what they were capable of. Inside the warship, the human commanders were calm. They had no interest in continuing the fight. They had not come to destroy. They had come to prove a point. The human fleet had not fired this much before, but now it was clear. This was a warning. "We only wish to show the galaxy our strength," the human leader's voice echoed over the ship's communication channels. "But we do not seek endless destruction. If you wish to continue fighting, you will face the full force of our warship. We are not your enemies, but we will not hesitate to defend ourselves if necessary." The message was cold and precise. There was no threat, just the simple truth. The humans had the power to end the war. The question was whether the galaxy would listen and work for peace, or whether it would continue to fight, facing the full might of humanity's warship. On the battlefields, the enemy forces were in disarray. Ships that had once been so powerful were now floating wrecks, their weapons useless against the human warship's shields and firepower. The surviving commanders scrambled to regroup, but they knew the truth. They had underestimated the humans. Their greatest mistake was thinking that humanity was just another species to be ignored. For those who had chosen peace, there was still time to act. Some ships moved forward, their representatives ready to meet with the humans and discuss terms. They knew the human warship had shown them its power, but they also knew it had not destroyed everything. There was still a chance for diplomacy, for negotiation. And so, the galaxy stood divided. Some were determined to fight to the bitter end. Others, still shocked by the demonstration of the human warship's power, were now considering a different path. The choice was clear: face the wrath of the human warship, or seek peace before it was too late. The warship's power had been shown. Now, it was up to the galaxy to decide if they would continue down the path of war or take the humans' offer for peace seriously. The galaxy was at a crossroads. The events of the past days had shown the true power of the human warship, and the message was clear: humanity was not to be underestimated. After their terrifying display of strength, the galaxy's factions were left with only one choice: to accept the offer of peace from the humans, or to continue down the path of conflict, risking everything. For some, the human warship's power was a wake-up call. The peace talks that had begun on the peaceful side of the galaxy were now seen as the only way forward. They had seen the destruction caused by the warship's weapons, and they knew they could never face that kind of power. The hope for a peaceful future was now stronger than ever. "We must try," one leader said, standing in front of a council of peaceful delegates. "The war has taken everything from us. If the humans are willing to stop the fighting, then we must do the same. We cannot afford to fight anymore. Our people are tired." There was agreement from many in the room. The suffering of endless war had left deep scars, and now, after seeing the power of the human warship, the desire for peace was overwhelming. They were ready to make their move. Peace talks would continue, and the hope for a new future was alive. But for others, the sight of the warship's destructive power only deepened their fears. They saw the humans as conquerors, not peacekeepers. The warship's attack had shown them that the humans could easily destroy their fleets, and now they feared what might come next. They were not ready to trust humanity. For them, peace was a dangerous gamble. "We cannot trust them," one leader said, standing in front of his advisors. "The humans have shown us their strength, but they've also shown us their willingness to fight. We cannot bow down to them. They are just another threat to our freedom. If we give in now, we may never be able to fight back." For these leaders, the destruction of the fleets was not a sign of peace. It was a warning. They felt the humans were using their power to intimidate the galaxy into submission. Their choice was clear. They would not submit. They would continue to fight, even if it meant risking everything. The galaxy was divided, and the future seemed uncertain. On one side, the desire for peace had never been stronger. On the other, the fear of being controlled by humanity had never been greater. The stakes had never been so high. Meanwhile, the human warship hovered in the neutral zone, waiting. Its message had been sent. Its power had been shown. Now, the humans could do nothing but wait for the galaxy to decide. Would they join the humans in a new era of peace, or would they continue fighting, knowing that the warship's might was always there, ready to defend humanity at all costs? As the days passed, both sides prepared for what was to come. Ships on both sides of the conflict were readying themselves, waiting for the final decision to be made. The peaceful factions, though hopeful, knew they had to stay vigilant. They had seen the power of the warship, and they knew that peace would only come if everyone was willing to work together. The war-driven factions, meanwhile, were preparing for battle, determined to prove that they would not back down. Their fleets were ready, and their commanders were focused. If the humans wanted a fight, they would get one. The tension in the galaxy was unbearable. In every corner of space, leaders, soldiers, and civilians waited for the outcome of the decision. The fate of the galaxy was still uncertain. Would it embrace a future of peace and cooperation, or would it continue to be torn apart by endless conflict? And then, after what felt like an eternity, the first steps toward peace were taken. The ambassadors sent by the peaceful factions arrived at the human warship. They were met with calm professionalism, their fears tempered by the humans' willingness to listen. The human leaders, though powerful, did not treat them as enemies. They treated them as equals. "We are here to listen," the human leader said. As the ambassadors sat down, "We are not here to force you to join us, but we are ready to help you if you want it. The choice is yours." The peaceful leaders, filled with a mix of hope and caution, began to talk. They spoke of the past, of the endless wars, and of the future they dreamed of. And as they spoke, they began to realize that the humans truly did want peace. They were not invaders, but survivors. They had seen the cost of war, and they were offering a way out. But as the talks continued, the war-driven factions could not stay silent. They were watching from afar, unwilling to give up their power. The peace talks were a danger, they believed, and they could not allow it to succeed. They would not let the galaxy fall under human control. And so, the tension continued. The human warship was still there, its engines silent but ready. The galaxy had a choice, to embrace peace or to keep fighting. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. This was the turning point. The next steps taken would shape the galaxy for generations to come. Would they embrace the hope of peace, or would they choose hostility and continue down the path of war? Only time would tell.